My sister hacked into my bank account to prove I was a failure. Instead, she saw $4 million. Now my parents are blowing up my phone, begging me to pay off their debts. But here's what they don't know. I've been the scapegoat my entire life and I'm done. Before we dive in, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, hit that subscribe button. This story gets wild and you'll want to see how it ends. My name is Maya and I'm 32 years old. I work as a marketing freelancer in Seattle. Well, that's what my family thinks I do. The truth is a little more complicated, but we'll get to that. For as long as I can remember, I've been the forgotten one in my family, the disappointment, the one who never quite measured up. My older sister Madison, she's 35 now, has always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the one who got all the praise, all the attention, all the love. I need to take you back to understand how deep this goes. Back to a day that still stings when I think about it, my high school graduation. I was 18, top of my class, full scholarship to a decent state university. I was so proud. I'd worked so hard, stayed up late studying, while Madison was out partying with her friends. I remember standing in that auditorium in my cap and gown, scanning the crowd for my parents' faces. They never came. I stood there among hundreds of families, watching parents hug their kids, take photos, cry happy tears. My phone buzzed during the ceremony, a text from Mom. Madison has an important job interview today. We need to drive her. So proud of you, though. We'll celebrate later. We never did celebrate. Not that week. Not ever. When I got home that evening, exhausted and heartbroken, Madison was sprawled on the couch, eating ice cream. "How'd the interview go?" I asked, trying to keep the bitterness out of my voice. She shrugged. "Didn't feel like going. Rescheduled for next week." They'd missed my graduation for an interview she didn't even attend. That was the first time I really understood where I stood in this family. But it wasn't the last. Fast forward 3 years. I was 21, and if you know anything about American culture, you know that's a big birthday. The legal drinking age, the birthday everyone makes a huge deal about. I'd been looking forward to it for months, dropping hints about maybe going out to dinner as a family. Nothing fancy, just something to mark the occasion. The day came. I woke up to silence. No texts, no calls, no cards on the kitchen table. I went downstairs and found the entire family bustling around, decorating the living room with balloons and streamers. My heart lifted for a second. Maybe they were planning a surprise? "What's all this for?" I asked. Dad barely looked up from where he was hanging a banner. "Madison got promoted to assistant manager at her firm. We're throwing her a celebration dinner tonight." I stood there, watching them transform our home into a party space for my sister. "It's my birthday today," I said quietly. Mum glanced over, genuinely surprised. "Oh, sweetie, is it? I'm so sorry, we've been so focused on Madison's big news. Tell you what, we'll do something special for you next week, okay? Promise." That promise, like so many others, evaporated into nothing. The party that night was loud and full of Madison's friends and our extended family. I sat in the corner, nursing a soda. Couldn't even legally buy my first drink yet, while everyone toasted my sister's success. Aunt Carol came up to me at one point. "Where's your birthday cake, honey?" "Didn't have one this year," I said, forcing a smile. She looked confused. "But isn't it your 21st? Before I could answer, Madison's voice cut through the room, calling everyone to attention for another toast. Aunt Carol patted my shoulder and walked away. I went upstairs to my room and cried until I fell asleep. But the moment that really broke something inside me came 3 years later, when I was 24. I'd graduated college, was working 2 part-time jobs while trying to build my freelance marketing business. Money was tight, but I was making it work. Then I got into a car accident. Not my fault. A drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned my Honda Civic. I ended up in the hospital with a concussion and a broken arm. The medical bills came to just over $2,000 after insurance. I didn't have that kind of money saved up. So I did what I thought families were supposed to do. I called my parents. Dad, I'm really sorry to ask, but I'm in a bind with these medical bills, I said, my voice shaking. Could you possibly lend me $2,000? I'll pay you back. I swear. I just need a few months to... He cut me off. Maya, the timing really isn't great. We just lent Madison $50,000 to start her business venture. Things are tight right now. Can't you figure something out? Maybe ask friends, or set up a payment plan with the hospital. I hung up and stared at my phone. $50,000 for Madison's business idea, which, by the way, failed within 6 months. But $2,000 to help their other daughter recover from a car accident. Too much to ask. I ended up borrowing money from 3 different friends, working a 3rd part-time job at a coffee shop, and eating ramen for dinner every night for 4 months to pay everyone back. I never asked my parents for help again, the moment I really, truly understood that I would never be enough for them. Came at Thanksgiving dinner when I was 27. By this point, I'd built my freelance business into something real. I had consistent clients, good income, and I was finally starting to feel proud of what I'd accomplished. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I shared this with them, they'd finally see me. I spent the whole day before Thanksgiving cooking, made my grandmother's famous sweet potato casserole, baked an apple pie from scratch, even brought a decent bottle of wine I couldn't really afford. When I arrived at my parents' house, arms full of dishes, Madison's car was already in the driveway. Dinner started, normally enough. We sat around the table, passing dishes, making small talk. Then Madison cleared her throat and announced, "I have some big news, everyone." She held up her hand, showing off a massive diamond ring. "James proposed, we're getting married." The room exploded. Mum started crying happy tears. Dad jumped up to shake James's hand and pull Madison into a hug. For the next hour, all anyone could talk about was the engagement, the wedding plans, how beautiful it would all be. Finally, during a lull in the conversation, I tried to share my own news. So I've been meaning to tell you all, my freelance business has really taken off this year. I landed 3 major corporate clients, and I'm actually making really good money now. I'm thinking of... "That's nice, honey," Dad said, not even looking at me. Then he turned right back to Madison. "So tell us more about James's family. What does his father do again?" I sat there with my fork halfway to my mouth, the words dying in my throat. Madison caught my eye across the table and gave me this tiny, triumphant smile. She knew. She knew exactly what she was doing. That night, driving home, alone, in my car, I realized something that changed everything. They don't see me. They never will. And nothing I do will ever change that. I made a decision right then. If they didn't want to see my success, I wouldn't show them. I went silent about my life, my achievements, my growth. I stopped trying to impress them or earn their approval. I built my world quietly, privately, without their validation. And over the next 5 years, I built something extraordinary. Let me bring you to the present. I'm 32 now, and my life looks very different than my family thinks it does. To them, I'm still Maya, the freelancer, scraping by, probably struggling to pay rent, definitely not as successful as perfect Madison. They think this because I let them think it. I stopped correcting their assumptions years ago. The truth? I don't just do freelance marketing anymore. 3 years ago, I started my own digital marketing agency. We specialize in helping mid-size companies scale their online presence. I have 12 employees now, an office space in downtown Seattle with a view of the water, and contracts with some major brands you definitely recognize. Last month, I checked my bank account and saw a number that still makes me do a double take, $4.2 million. Between my business accounts, investment portfolio, and savings, I'd quietly become exactly what my family always told me I'd never be, successful beyond my wildest dreams. But here's the thing, they have no idea. And I never planned to tell them. I haven't shared anything real with my family in years. Our relationship exists in surface-level phone calls every few weeks and obligatory holiday gatherings where I smile, nod, and leave early. They assume I'm doing okay, but nothing special. I let them assume. The distance became more obvious over the past year. Madison got married 6 months ago, and I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. When I asked her about it, trying to keep my voice casual, like it didn't hurt, she said, "I wanted my bridesmaids to match, and you just don't fit the aesthetic." I went to the wedding anyway, sat at a table in the back with distant cousins I'd met, maybe twice. During her speech, Madison thanked Mom and Dad for always believing in me, for always being there, for being the most supportive parents anyone could ask for. She didn't mention me once. Not once. 3 months ago, Mum and Dad posted their Christmas family photo on Facebook. It was them, Madison, and her husband James, all wearing matching red sweaters, laughing in front of the fireplace. I wasn't in it. When I texted Mom asking why I wasn't invited for the photo, she replied, "We took it when you were in the bathroom, sweetie." But I know the truth. I'd checked the metadata on the photo, taken 2 hours before I even arrived at their house. They'd deliberately taken their family photo without me. Then came Dad's retirement party last month. He'd worked as an accountant for 35 years and was finally retiring. It should have been a big family celebration. Madison organised a party at this upscale Italian restaurant downtown. I found out about it 3 days after it happened when I saw photos on Instagram posted by my cousin Rachel. I called Mom. Why wasn't I invited to Dad's retirement party? There was a pause. "Oh, honey, we thought you'd be too busy with whatever it is you do. We didn't want to bother you." Too busy. That was their excuse. After 32 years, they couldn't even pretend to care anymore. But the final straw, the moment that made everything crystal clear, came 2 weeks ago at Sunday dinner. I almost didn't go. These dinners had become torture, sitting there while they fawned over Madison and treated me like a piece of furniture. But something made me show up one last time. We were eating pot roast when Dad cleared his throat, in that way that many had an announcement. "Your mother and I have been working on updating our will," he said, looking between Madison and me. Here it comes, I thought, the final proof of where I stand. Madison, since you're married now and planning to start a family, we've decided you should inherit the house. The house, a beautiful 4-bedroom in a nice Seattle suburb, worth at least $800,000. Maya, we want you to have your grandmother's china collection. It has a lot of sentimental value. Sentimental value. Translation: worthless except for memories. Madison gets nearly $1 million in real estate. I get dishes. We just think Madison needs the stability, Mom added, reaching over to squeeze Madison's hand. She's building a family. You're still figuring things out. Still figuring things out. At 32, after building a multi-million-dollar business. Madison looked across the table at me, and I swear I saw satisfaction in her eyes. Don't worry, Maya, she said sweetly. When I sell that, buys the house eventually, maybe I'll give you some of the furniture. I sat there, fork in hand, looking at these 3 people who shared my DNA but treated me like a tolerated stranger. And something inside me just clicked. A door closing, a chapter ending. I finished my dinner in silence, helped clear the dishes, and drove home. That night, I sat in my downtown apartment, the penthouse I'd bought outright 2 years ago, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and I realized something liberating. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had built something they couldn't even imagine. And I'd done it without their support, their encouragement, or their belief in me. I had proven them wrong in the most profound way possible. And they had no idea. A week passed after that dinner. I went about my life, running my agency, meeting with clients, managing my team. I didn't call my parents. I didn't text Madison. For the first time in my life, I simply existed without reaching out to them, without trying to maintain the connection, without doing the emotional labor of being part of a family that didn't really want me. It felt like breathing for the first time. Then 3 days ago, I met my friend Nora for lunch. Nora and I have been friends since college. She's 35 now, a successful lawyer at a corporate firm downtown. She's one of the few people who knows the real story of my family dynamics because she's witnessed it firsthand over the years. We met at this little bistro we both love, and over salads and iced tea, I told her about the will situation, about the Sunday dinner, about the china plates. Nora put down her fork and looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Maya, do you realize what you're doing? What do you mean? You've been letting them treat you like a charity case, like someone who needs their scraps and leftovers while you're quietly sitting on millions. That's not humility. That's self-sabotage. I started to protest. I just wanted to avoid drama, but they're creating drama, Nora cut in. They're creating drama by erasing you, by treating you as less than, by giving you literal table scraps in their will. You deserve better, Maya. You know that, right? The thing about Nora is that she doesn't sugarcoat things. It's what makes her a great lawyer and an even better friend. You don't have to flaunt your money, she continued, but you also don't have to shrink yourself to make them comfortable. Living your truth isn't the same as bragging. It's just existing authentically. Her words hit me hard because she was right. I'd been hiding my success, not to be humble, but because I was still, on some level, afraid of their judgment. Afraid they'd find some way to diminish my achievements or claim credit they didn't deserve. They're hosting another family dinner this Saturday, I told her. Mom called yesterday, said Madison has big news she wants to share. Nora raised an eyebrow. Are you going to go? I thought about it. One last time, I finally said. Then I'm done. I need to see what this big news is, and then I'm going to quietly exit their lives. I deserve peace, not their approval. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that while I was making plans to peacefully distance myself from my family, Madison was making plans of her own. You see, 5 years ago, when I was still struggling to build my freelance business, I'd given Madison my bank account password. She'd offered to help me set up automatic bill payments, and in a moment of misplaced trust, I'd shared my login information. After she helped me set everything up, I just never changed the password. Why would I? Who would care enough about my finances to snoop? Apparently, Madison would. The night before the Saturday dinner, so yesterday evening, Madison was sitting at home with James. They'd been arguing about money again. James's company had been doing layoffs, and while he'd kept his job, his hours had been cut. Their savings were tight, and with Madison's announcement about the pregnancy, they were both stressed about finances. Madison was scrolling through her phone, probably looking at my minimal social media presence. I barely post anything, and feeling that familiar mix of superiority and insecurity she always seems to have around me. On a whim, or maybe out of spite, she decided to check if my old bank login still worked. It did. She logged into my account expecting to see what she'd always assumed was there, maybe a few $1,000s, proof that I was living paycheck to paycheck, confirmation that she was the successful sister and I was the one still figuring things out. Instead, she saw this: primary checking account balance, $847,892.34. Business account, $1,847,235.67. Savings account, $347,109.89. Investment portfolio, $2,455. Total, $4,242,692.90. I can only imagine her face in that moment. The shock, the confusion, the dawning realization that everything she'd believed about me for the past 5 years was wrong. She immediately screenshotted everything and sent it to the family group chat, the one I'd muted years ago. Mum and Dad were added. The text that accompanied the screenshots was short. "Look at this." Within minutes, the group chat exploded. I know this because here's a secret I've never told anyone. Years ago, when I helped Mum set up her iPad, I used my own Apple ID temporarily and never removed it. Her iPad still syncs to my iCloud, so I see every message in that family group chat, even though I never respond, and they have no idea I can see it. Mum's message: "Is this real? How did she get this much money?" Dad: "This can't be right. Maybe it's a mistake." Madison: "It's real. This is Maya's actual bank account. I just checked. She's been hiding this from us." There was a pause in the messages. Then, Dad: "We need to talk to her. Mum, this changes everything. We have medical bills. The house needs repairs." Madison: "And we need money for the nursery. The baby's coming." I sat in my apartment, reading these messages in real time, watching my family discuss my private finances like vultures circling prey. They didn't ask if I was okay. They didn't wonder why I'd kept this private. They didn't reflect on whether their treatment of me might have contributed to my secrecy. They just calculated what they could get from me. The last message in the chat came from Dad. "Let's not say anything to her before dinner tomorrow. We'll bring it up then, as a family. She'll understand she needs to help us." I stared at that message for a long time. They thought they were going to ambush me. They thought they'd corner me at dinner, present the evidence of my wealth, and guilt me into writing checks to solve all their problems. They had no idea I already knew. They had no idea I'd been watching them plan this intervention, like I was some kind of reluctant ATM they just needed to shake hard enough. I called Nora immediately. They saw my bank accounts, I told her. Madison illegally accessed them. They're planning to confront me at tomorrow's dinner. There was a beat of silence. Then Nora, in her calm lawyer voice, said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." We talked for 2 hours, planning. By the time I hung up, I had a strategy. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I wasn't going to shrink myself, and I definitely wasn't going to be ambushed. I'd spent 32 years being the forgotten daughter, the disappointment, the one who didn't measure up. Tomorrow, at that dinner, everything was going to change. I went to bed that night feeling something I hadn't felt in years when it came to my family: power. Not the power that comes from money, though that was part of it. The power that comes from finally seeing the situation clearly and refusing to play their game anymore. Saturday morning arrived. I woke up early, went for a run along the waterfront, came home and made myself a proper breakfast. I took my time getting ready, choosing my outfit carefully, nothing flashy, just a simple black sweater and jeans. I wasn't dressing to impress. I was dressing to feel like myself. At 11 a.m, my doorbell rang. Nora, punctual as always. "Ready?" she asked, professional briefcase in hand. "Ready?" We drove to my parents' house together. The whole way there, my phone kept buzzing with messages I didn't read. I knew they were from my family. I knew they were probably about being excited to see me, about Madison's big news, all fake pleasantries hiding the real agenda. When we pulled up to the house at exactly 5 p.m, the time I'd been told to arrive, I took a deep breath. Nora reached over and squeezed my hand. "You've got this," she said. "Remember, you don't owe them anything. Not your money, not your success, not your presence. You're doing this for you, to close this chapter on your terms." I nodded, grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought, a nice Pinot Noir, because even in moments like this, I was raised to not show up empty-handed, and walked up to the front door. I rang the doorbell. Through the frosted glass, I could see figures moving inside. The door opened. Mum stood there, and for just a fraction of a second, I saw it. The calculation in her eyes, the fake warmth that didn't reach her smile. "Maya, so glad you could make it." She hugged me, and it felt like hugging a stranger. I walked into the house I'd grown up in, the house I'd never inherit, and saw Dad and Madison already seated at the dining table. The table was set for 4, and there was a palpable tension in the air that had nothing to do with Madison's supposed big news. "Hi, everyone," I said, setting the wine on the counter. Madison looked up at me, and there was something in her expression I'd never seen before, not smugness, not superiority, but something closer to anticipation, like she was watching a movie she'd already seen and was waiting for her favourite part. We all sat down. Mum served the pot roast she always made for family dinners. For a few minutes, there was just the sound of silverware on plates and awkward small talk about the weather, about traffic, about nothing real. Then Madison put down her fork and smiled. That bright practice smile she uses when she wants everyone's attention. "So, I have some really exciting news to share. Here we go, I thought. The pregnancy announcement they'll use as leverage. James and I are expecting. I'm 12 weeks pregnant. Mum gasped with joy, real joy this time, I could tell. Dad stood up to hug Madison. It was a genuine moment of family happiness. And, for just a second I felt that old familiar ache, wishing I could be part of this, wishing my news ever mattered this much to them. Congratulations, Madison, I said, and I meant it. Whatever else was about to happen, a baby is good news. That's wonderful. I'm happy for you. We're going to be grandparents. Mum was actually crying. The excitement continued for a few more minutes. Then, like a record scratch, the atmosphere shifted. Dad cleared his throat and exchanged glances with Mom and Madison. Here it comes. Maya? Dad started, his voice taking on that serious tone he uses for important conversations. There's something we need to discuss as a family. I set down my fork and folded my hands in my lap, waiting. Your mother and we've been dealing with some financial difficulties, he continued. Medical bills, the house needs some major repairs, and now with the baby coming, we want to help Madison and James prepare. I said nothing, just watched him. Mum jumped in. We didn't want to worry you, but things have been tight. And then Madison showed us. She trailed off, looking at Madison. Madison, at least, had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Maya, I accessed your bank account. There it was, out in the open. Excuse me? I said, keeping my voice level. I still had your old password from years ago, Madison said, her discomfort growing. I was worried about you, wanted to make sure you were doing okay financially, and... You illegally accessed my private financial accounts, I interrupted, my voice still calm. Let's call it what it is. Dad waved his hand dismissively. That's not the point, Maya. The point is, we saw that you have significant savings. Over $4 million. The number hung in the air. And we need help, Mum added quickly. We're family. Family helps family. I looked at each of them, Dad sitting at the head of the table where he'd sat for every meal of my childhood, most of which he'd spent ignoring me. Mom, who'd forgotten my 21st birthday. Madison, who'd spent our entire lives being chosen over me. How much do you need? I asked quietly. Dad's face lit up with relief. Well, we have about $150,000 in combined medical bills and home equity debt. And Madison and James need about $50,000 for the nursery, baby expenses, and to build up their emergency fund with James's job situation. $200,000. They wanted me to hand over $200,000. It's not like you can't afford it, Madison added, and there was an edge to her voice now. You have $4 million, Maya. This would barely make a dent. I nodded slowly, processing. Then I said something that clearly wasn't what they expected. Before I answer, I need to make sure I understand the situation correctly. They all leaned forward slightly, eager. For 32 years, I've been the daughter you forgot, the one whose graduation you missed, whose 21st birthday you didn't celebrate, who you wouldn't loan $2,000 to when she was in the hospital, the one you didn't include in family photos, the one you gave china plates to in your will while giving Madison an $800,000 house. Is that accurate? The room went very quiet. Madison, you hacked into my private accounts, a federal crime, by the way, not because you were worried about me, but because you wanted ammunition. You wanted proof that I was failing so you could mock me, but instead you found out I'd succeeded wildly. without any help from any of you. Is that also accurate? Madison's face flushed. That's not, I wasn't, and now that you all know I have money I earned myself, built myself, grew myself, suddenly I'm family, suddenly you need me, suddenly I matter. Mum started to speak. Maya, that's not fair. What's not fair, I said, and my voice was still calm, still quiet, but there was steel in it now. Is being erased from family events for 3 decades and then being expected to fund your lives because I finally have something you want. Dad stood up. We're your parents. We raised you. We deserve some respect. I stood too, matching his energy. You're right. Let me be very respectful then. No. No? Mum looked confused. No, I will not give you money, not a cent. You didn't earn it. You don't deserve it. And I don't owe you anything. The doorbell rang. Dad looked at the door, then back at me. Are you expecting someone? Yes, I said. That's my lawyer. I walked to the door and opened it. Nora stood there in her sharp business suit, briefcase in hand, every inch the successful attorney she is. Hi, I'm Nora Chen, Maya's attorney, she said, walking into the dining room like she owned it. Maya invited me to witness this conversation. My family stared. Nora opened her briefcase and pulled out some documents. For the record, accessing someone's bank account without permission is a federal crime under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Madison, you could face up to 5 years in prison and up to $250,000 in fines. Madison went pale. I didn't mean, I wasn't trying to... Intent doesn't matter legally, Nora continued crisply. You accessed a financial account that wasn't yours. Maya has screenshots of your family group chat where you shared her private financial information with your parents. She pulled out printed copies of the chat messages I'd forwarded to her. Mum gasped. Maya, you've been reading our messages. Yes, I said simply. Madison used your iPad for that group chat. Your iPad is synced to the family iCloud account, the one I set up years ago and you never removed me from. I saw everything, every message, every plan to ambush me here today. The silence in the room was deafening. Dad's face had gone from confused to angry to something approaching fear. Mum looked between Nora and me like she couldn't quite process what was happening. Madison's hands were shaking. You're going to send your own sister to prison? Mom finally said, her voice rising with panic. I looked at Madison, really looked at her. The golden child who'd had everything handed to her, who'd never had to fight for a scrap of recognition, who'd spent yesterday evening illegally breaking into my accounts thinking she'd find proof of my failure. I don't want to send anyone to prison, I said, but Madison committed a federal crime, not a small one. She violated my privacy, my security, and then shared my confidential financial information with other people. That's serious. Madison started crying. Real tears this time, not the practiced ones she uses to get her way. Maya, please, I'm pregnant. I can't go to jail. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You're sorry you got caught, I said quietly. You're not sorry you did it. If you'd found what you were looking for, if you'd logged in and seen I was broke, struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, you would have screenshot that too. You would have sent it to this same group chat and laughed about it. We both know that's true. She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it, because we both did know it was true. Nora stepped forward, placing a document on the table. I've prepared a cease and contact agreement. Madison, if you sign this agreeing to never contact Maya again unless Maya initiates contact first, and if all three of you agree to these terms, Maya won't press charges. Dad picked up the document, scanning it quickly. This says none of us can contact Maya. Not calls, not texts, not emails, not showing up at her home or workplace. This is ridiculous. We're her family. You're people who share her DNA, Nora corrected coldly. Family shows up. Family celebrates each other. Family doesn't forget graduations and birthdays and then demand money when it's convenient. Mum's tears were flowing now. Maya, honey, please. We made mistakes, but we love you. We're your parents. You can't just cut us off. Something in me cracked then. Not broke. I'd been broken by them for years. This was different. This was the crack that lets the light in, the one that lets you finally breathe. You love me? I said, and I heard my voice shake for the first time. You love me? Mum, you didn't come to my high school graduation because Madison had a job interview she didn't even attend. Dad, you told me you couldn't help with $2,000 in medical bills while you handed Madison $50,000 for a business that failed. You forgot my 21st birthday to throw Madison a promotion party. You excluded me from family photos. You gave me dishes in your will while giving her a house worth almost $1 million. I was standing now, though I didn't remember getting up. You've never loved me. You've tolerated me. You've kept me around because that's what you're supposed to do with your children. But you've never celebrated me, never supported me, never chosen me, not once in 32 years. That's not true, Mum protested weakly. Name one time, I challenged. One time you put me first. One time you chose me over Madison. One birthday you remembered without me reminding you. One achievement you celebrated. The silence that followed was its own answer. I turned to Madison. And you. You've spent our entire lives competing with me in a race I never entered. I never wanted to be the golden child. I just wanted to be seen. But every time I accomplished something, you had to accomplish more. Every time I tried to share something, you had to take over the conversation. You couldn't let me have anything. I was jealous, Madison whispered. You were smarter than me, more independent. I needed their approval because I was insecure. And that's supposed to make it okay, I asked. Your insecurity gave you the right to erase me. She didn't answer. I looked at all three of them. These people who I'd spent my whole life trying to please, trying to impress, trying to get to love me. And I felt something I'd never felt before, complete indifference, not anger, not hatred, just nothing. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady now. You're going to sign this agreement, all three of you. You're going to agree to leave me alone. No calls, no texts, no showing up at my office or my apartment. No trying to contact me through mutual friends or extended family, nothing. And if we don't? Dad asked, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Then I press charges against Madison for unauthorized access to my financial accounts. And I pursue a civil lawsuit against all three of you for emotional distress, which, given the documented pattern of favoritism and neglect spanning 32 years, I have a very strong case for, Nora said matter-of-factly. I've already prepared the filing. We just need to submit it. You'd really do that? Mom asked me, searching my face. Try me, I said. I've spent 32 years being the family doormat. I'm done. You wanted me to be independent and figure things out on my own? Congratulations. I did. I built a multi-million-dollar business without your support, without your encouragement, without your belief in me. I don't need you. I never did. I just wanted you to want me." The weight of those last words hung in the air. Madison picked up the pen first. Her hand was still shaking, but she signed. Then Mom. Finally Dad, his jaw clenched tight. "There's one more thing," I said. I hadn't planned this part, but looking at them now, it felt necessary. "I don't want the china plates. Keep them. Give them to Madison. Sell them. I don't care, but I want you to know something." I paused, making sure they were all listening. "I'm successful not because of you, but despite you. Every obstacle you put in my way, every time you made me feel small, every birthday you forgot, every achievement you ignored, it all taught me that I couldn't rely on anyone but myself. So thank you, I guess, for teaching me self-reliance in the cruelest way possible." I picked up my purse. Nora gathered her documents. We walked to the door together. "Maya, wait," Mum called out. I turned back one last time. "Are we really never going to see you again?" she asked, and she looked genuinely sad. "That's up to me now," I said. "And honestly, I don't know, maybe someday. But right now I need space from people who only value me when I have something they want. I need to surround myself with people who valued me when I had nothing." I walked out of that house and didn't look back. Nora and I got into her car and she drove me back to my apartment. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. Finally she said, "How do you feel?" I thought about it. "Lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy for so long, I forgot what it felt like to stand up straight." "You did the right thing," she said. "I know, doesn't make it easy." That night, alone in my apartment, I ordered takeout Thai food and watched mindless TV. My phone was blissfully silent. I'd blocked all 3 of their numbers immediately after leaving. For the first time in my adult life, I went to bed without the nagging feeling that I needed to do something to earn my family's love. I slept better than I had in years. The next morning was Sunday. I woke up naturally without an alarm and made myself coffee. I was sitting on my balcony watching the city wake up when my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Madison. I'm using James's phone. Please don't block this one. I know I don't deserve your attention, but I need you to know something. I'm sorry, truly sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I finally see what we did to you. I saw your face yesterday and I realized we broke you. I broke you, and I don't know if sorry can fix that, but I needed to say it." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, wanted to believe her. But the bigger part of me knew better. This was just another manipulation, another way to keep me tethered to a family that had never valued me. I blocked James's number and deleted the message. Over the next 48 hours, the attempts to contact me escalated. Mum left 4 voicemails. The first one was angry. "Maya, you're being incredibly selfish. After everything we did for you, raising you, feeding you, giving you a home, this is how you repay us?" The second one was guilt-laden. "Your father is heartbroken. He's been crying. He doesn't understand why you hate us so much. We made mistakes, but we're human. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive?" The third one tried bargaining. "What if we pay you back? Any money you give us, we'll pay it back with interest. We can set up a payment plan. Please, Maya, we need to talk about this." The fourth one was desperate. Madison's pregnancy is high risk. Her blood pressure is through the roof because of the stress from all this. If something happens to the baby, it'll be on your conscience. Please call us back. I listened to each one once, felt nothing, and deleted them all. Dad sent an email. The subject line was, "We need to talk." The body was longer, more measured, written like the accountant he'd been for 35 years. "Maya, I understand you're hurt. I acknowledge that we may have shown favoritism toward Madison over the years. But turning your back on family in their time of need is cruel. Your mother's anxiety has gotten worse since Saturday. Her blood pressure is elevated. The stress of this situation is affecting her health. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for help from someone who has the means to help. Can we meet for coffee and discuss this like adults? I'm willing to listen to your grievances if you're willing to consider our position." His willingness to listen after 32 years of not listening felt like too little, too late. I set up a filter to automatically send his emails to trash. On day 3, extended family started getting involved. My Aunt Carol, Mum's sister, sent me a text. "Maya, I heard what happened at the dinner. I think you're being too harsh. Yes, your parents made mistakes and showed favoritism, but they're still your parents. They love you in their own way. Cutting them off completely seems extreme. Family is forever, honey. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive and help them? They're really struggling." I read her message and felt anger rise in my throat. Where was Aunt Carol on my forgotten birthdays? Where was she when I was sitting alone at Madison's wedding reception? Where was she when I needed a $2,000 loan for medical bills? I typed out a response. "Aunt Carol, I appreciate your concern, but you weren't there for the 32 years of neglect that led to this moment. You didn't witness my forgotten graduations, my missed birthdays, my exclusion from family events. You don't get to tell me how to respond to a lifetime of being made invisible. I'm not being harsh. I'm protecting my peace. Please respect that." I hit send before I could second guess myself. Her reply came fast. "I'm just trying to help. No need to be rude." Classic. I set boundaries, and suddenly I was the rude one. My cousin Jake, Madison's age, always been close to her, sent me a DM on Instagram on day 4. "Yo Maya, heard you're loaded now, lol, mad respect. Listen, I'm trying to get my music production business off the ground. Could you spot me like 10K? I'll totally pay you back once I'm making money. Family discount, right?" I stared at that message in disbelief. He hadn't spoken to me in 3 years, didn't even say hello at Madison's wedding. Now he wanted $10,000 like it was nothing. I didn't even block him. I just turned off my DMs from people I don't follow. By day 5, I was getting messages from people I barely knew. Second cousins, my parents' neighbours, someone from my high school I'd maybe spoken to twice. Everyone had heard about the family dispute, and everyone had an opinion. The common thread in all these messages was the same. I was being selfish. I was being cruel. I was abandoning family. How could I let them struggle when I had so much? Not one person asked why I'd hidden my success. Not one person questioned why I'd felt the need to keep my accomplishments secret. Not one person acknowledged that maybe, just maybe, there was a reason I'd built walls between myself and my family. On day 6, I was in my office downtown in a meeting with a potential client when my receptionist buzzed my desk. "Ms. Maya, there's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister and it's urgent." My stomach dropped. I excused myself from the meeting and went to the lobby. There was Madison looking pale and exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. "Madison, you need to leave," I said immediately. "Maya, please. Just 5 minutes. I won't ask for money. I just need to talk to you." My receptionist was watching with obvious interest. I didn't want to cause a scene in my own office. "Fine. 5 minutes. Not here. There's a coffee shop across the street." We walked in silence to the Starbucks. I ordered nothing. She got water. We sat at a corner table. "You look terrible," I said. "It wasn't meant to be cruel, just factual." "I haven't been sleeping," she admitted. "Maya, I'm sorry. I know I said it in text, but I need to say it to your face. I was jealous of you. I've always been jealous of you." "You were jealous of me?" I couldn't keep the disbelief out of my voice. "You were the golden child. You got everything." "I got their attention," she corrected. "But you got their genes. You were smarter, more creative, more independent. I needed constant validation because without it I felt worthless. You never needed anyone. You were always so complete." I shook my head. "I wasn't complete, Madison. I was lonely. I was desperate for any sign that they loved me. I spent my entire childhood trying to earn something you got for free." "I know that now," she said, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. "I saw your face on Saturday. I saw how much pain you were in, and I realized we did that. I did that, and I can't take it back." For a moment, I felt myself softening. Then I remembered why we were here. "Why did you really come to my office, Madison?" She hesitated. "I need your help." There it was. "With what?" "Not with money," she said quickly. "With the baby. My blood pressure has been dangerously high. The doctor said if it doesn't come down, they might have to deliver early. And I'm scared, Maya. I'm scared I'm going to lose the baby, and I don't know what to do." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my sister, genuine vulnerability, not manipulation, not strategy, just fear. "What do you want from me?" I asked carefully. "I want you to forgive me," she whispered. "Not for them, not for the money. Just because I can't live with knowing I destroyed our relationship over jealousy and spite. I can't bring a child into this world knowing I permanently damaged my relationship with my only sibling." "Madison, your blood pressure is high because you're stressed about losing access to my money," I said bluntly. "Not because you're stressed about losing me. If I'd never made this money, you wouldn't be here right now. That's not true. Isn't it? When was the last time you called me just to talk? When was the last time you asked about my life, my work, my relationships? When was the last time you treated me like a sister instead of competition?" She couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. "The baby deserves better than to be used as leverage," I continued, "and you deserve to get your blood pressure under control for your health and your child's health. But that has nothing to do with me. That's about you learning to live without using me as a stepping stone or a scapegoat." "So you're really done with me, with all of us?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Right now, yes. I can't be around any of you without feeling that old pain. Maybe someday that will change, but right now, I need distance from people who only valued me when I had something they wanted." "I did value you," she protested weakly. No, Madison, you didn't. And that's okay. People don't have to value us just because we're related. But I also don't have to keep subjecting myself to people who make me feel small, even if those people are family. I stood up. Take care of yourself and your baby, but don't come to my office again. If you need to reach me, email Nora. She'll determine if it's actually urgent. I walked out, leaving her sitting there with her untouched water. That evening, I went to dinner with Nora and 2 other close friends from college, Emma and Sarah. We'd been planning this dinner for weeks, and I was grateful for the distraction. Over wine and pasta, I told them everything. About the dinner, the confrontation, Madison showing up at my office. "How are you holding up?" Emma asked, her dark eyes full of concern. "Honestly, I feel lighter," I said, "like I've been holding my breath for 32 years and I finally exhaled. But it's also weird. I keep expecting to feel guilty, but I don't." "You shouldn't feel guilty," Sarah said firmly. "They treated you terribly for your entire life. You don't owe them anything just because you share DNA." Nora swirled her wine. You know, legally you could pursue a civil case for emotional distress. The pattern of neglect and favoritism is well documented. You'd probably win." "I don't want to sue them," I said. "I just want to be done with them." "What about the bank account breach?" Nora pressed. "That's a federal crime. You could still press charges." "I won't," I said. "I meant what I said. I don't want Madison to go to jail. I just want her to leave me alone." Emma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you. Not everyone has the strength to walk away from toxic family." "The hardest part," I admitted, "is accepting that they're never going to change. I kept hoping that if I achieved enough, earned enough, became successful enough, they'd finally see me. But they only saw what I could do for them." "Their loss," Sarah said. "You're incredible, Maya. You build a multi-million-dollar business from scratch. You're kind, intelligent, and resilient. Any family would be lucky to have you." "Well, they can have the china plates," I said, and we all laughed. That moment, sitting with my chosen family, women who'd been there for me through breakups and job losses and every forgotten birthday, women who celebrated my successes without jealousy, I realized something profound. I'd spent my whole life grieving the family I wanted. Now it was time to appreciate the family I'd built. We stayed at that restaurant until closing, laughing and telling stories and planning a weekend trip to Napa Valley. When I got home that night, my apartment didn't feel lonely. It felt peaceful. The next morning, day 7, I woke up to one final attempt from my family. Mom and Dad showed up at my apartment building. They must have bypassed security by claiming it was a family emergency because they made it all the way to my door. I knew they were there before they knocked because my doorbell camera alerted me. I watched them through the app on my phone. Dad looking older than I remembered, Mom wringing her hands nervously. The knock came. Then Dad's voice through the door. "Maya, we know you're home. Your car is in the parking garage. Please let us in. We need to talk." I stayed on my couch, speaking through the intercom system. "You need to leave. I asked you to respect my boundaries." "We're your parents," Mum said, her voice cracking. "You can't just shut us out forever. Watch me." "Maya, please," Dad said. "We're willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, family counselling. We'll make it right." "You had 32 years to make it right," I replied. "I'm not interested in a relationship that only exists when you need something from me." "We don't need anything," Mom insisted. "We just want our daughter back." "You never had me," I said quietly. You had an idea of me, the disappointing one, the one who wasn't as good as Madison. But you never knew the real me, because you never cared to look. That's not fair, Dad said. We made mistakes, but we love you. If this is what your love looks like, I don't want it. Please leave, or I'll call the police for trespassing. There was a long silence. Then Mom's voice, desperate. We'll change the will, you can have the house, all of it. Just please don't shut us out. And there it was. Even now they thought money was the answer. They thought I'd cut them off because I wanted their house. I don't want your house, I said through the intercom. I bought my own. It's bigger, has a better view, and I earned it without anyone's help. That's what you never understood. I don't want your things. I wanted your love, but you can't buy that, and it's too late to earn it now. Maya? Leave. Now, or I'm calling 911. I watched through the camera as they stood there for another minute, then slowly walked away. Dad had his arm around Mum's shoulders. She was crying. A small part of me felt sorry for them, but the bigger part felt relief. They'd finally learned what I learned years ago. You can't force someone to love you, and you can't buy your way out of decades of neglect. After they left, I blocked the building's front desk from allowing them in again without my express permission. I was done with surprise visits. The rest of that week passed quietly. The messages stopped. The calls stopped. Either they'd finally accepted my boundaries, or they'd simply run out of ways to contact me. 3 months later, life had settled into a new normal. My business was thriving. We'd just landed a major contract with a Fortune 500 company. I'd promoted 2 of my employees to senior positions and hired 5 more people to handle the growth. My team was incredible, and I made sure they knew it. Every achievement was celebrated. Every birthday was remembered. I was building the kind of workplace I'd always wished my family had been. A place where people felt seen and valued. I'd also bought a second property, a beautiful beach house in Maui. It was an investment, sure, but also a gift to myself. A place where I could escape and recharge. I'd spent 1 weekend there already, and the peace I felt watching the ocean was unlike anything I'd experienced. I started a scholarship fund too. It was called the Overlooked Achievers Scholarship. And it was specifically for young people who'd succeeded despite lack of family support. The applications I received broke my heart and filled me with hope at the same time. So many kids out there doing incredible things with families that either didn't notice or didn't care. I plan to fund at least 10 full scholarships this year through mutual friends, people I hadn't blocked, people who understood my boundaries. I heard updates about my family. Dad had taken out another loan. The debt was getting worse. Madison's husband James had been laid off, and they were struggling to cover their mortgage on just Madison's income. Mum's anxiety had led to stress-induced migraines. Real ones this time. But not life-threatening. They'd tried to sell the family home to cover their debts, but the housing market had dipped and they couldn't get the price they needed. The house that had been worth $800,000 was now appraised at $650,000, and they owed $400,000 on it. Not enough equity to solve their problems. Did I feel guilty? Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if I was being cruel. But then I'd remember every forgotten birthday, every missed graduation, every time I'd needed them and they chose Madison instead. And I'd remember that I'd offered them love, presence, and effort my whole life. They'd rejected all of it. They only wanted my money, and that wasn't family. That was a transaction. I didn't owe them a bailout for problems they'd created. I didn't owe them access to a success they'd never supported. And most importantly, I didn't owe them a relationship they'd spent 32 years not valuing. One evening in early April, I was working late at my office when I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line was, "It's a girl. We named her Maya." My hand hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won. I opened it. The email was from Madison, sent from what looked like a newly created account just for this purpose. There was no text, just a photo attached, a baby. Tiny, pink, with a tuft of dark hair, she was beautiful. Below the photo, a single line, "Born April 3rd, 7 lbs 2 Oz. We named her Maya. I hope that's okay." I stared at that photo for a long time. They'd named the baby after me. The sister they'd erased, the daughter they'd forgotten, the family member they'd only valued when I had money. Now my name would be carried by Madison's daughter. Was it an apology? A guilt trip? An olive branch? Maybe all three. I sat with it for hours. Part of me was touched. Part of me was angry. Part of me felt manipulated. All of those feelings were valid, I realized. Feelings don't have to make sense. They just have to be acknowledged. Finally, after midnight, I typed a response. "Congratulations on your daughter. She's beautiful. I hope you give her the love and recognition you never gave me. I hope you see her, really see her, for who she is and not who you want her to be. I hope she never knows what it feels like to be invisible in her own family. I won't be part of her life. That's not a punishment, it's a boundary. But I wish her well. I wish you all well. Take care of yourselves." I hit send, then blocked that email address too. It was closure, I realized. Not the closure I'd wanted. I'd wanted them to genuinely understand what they'd done, to truly change, to become the family I'd always needed. But this was the closure I got. A baby named after me, a gesture that cost them nothing and changed nothing. And that had to be enough. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run along the waterfront. The sun was rising over the water, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I stopped to catch my breath at a viewpoint, looking out over the city I'd built my life in. My phone buzzed. A text from Nora. "Brunch this weekend? Emma and Sarah are in." And I smiled and texted back, "Absolutely. My treat." This was my family now, people who'd chosen me, people who celebrated me, people who saw me. I thought about a conversation I'd had with my therapist. Yes, I'd started therapy after the dinner confrontation, about closure. She'd asked me what closure looked like, and I'd said I wanted my family to understand, to apologize, to change. She gently pointed out that closure is something we give ourselves, not something we get from other people. We can't control whether others understand us or change. We can only control whether we move forward. "Do you need them to validate your feelings for your feelings to be real?" she'd asked. "No," I'd realized. "My feelings are real whether they acknowledge them or not." "Then what do you need from them?" The answer had surprised me. Nothing. I don't need anything from them. I just need to be okay with needing nothing. Standing there on that waterfront, watching the city wake up, I realized I'd achieved that. I was okay with needing nothing from them. I was okay with them never understanding. I was okay with moving forward without their blessing or their love. I was okay. Better than okay. I was happy. I started running again, my feet hitting the pavement in a steady rhythm, my breath coming easy. The morning was beautiful, my business was thriving, my friendships were strong, and my future was mine to build. As I ran, I thought about all the people watching this story who might see themselves in it. People who've been made to feel small by their families. People who've achieved success despite lack of support. People who are struggling with whether to maintain relationships with toxic family members. And I wanted them to know you're not alone. You're not wrong for protecting yourself. And you don't owe anyone access to your success if they weren't there for your struggle. Your worth is not determined by who celebrates you. It's determined by how you celebrate yourself. I finished my run and headed home to shower and get ready for work. I had a busy day ahead. A pitch meeting with a potential client in the morning, a strategy session with my team in the afternoon, and dinner with a friend in the evening. A full, rich, purposeful life. I thought about that image of baby Maya in the photo. Part of me hoped that little girl would grow up in a healthier family than I did. That Madison and James, maybe shaken by the consequences of their actions, would be better parents than my parents had been. That little Maya would never know what it feels like to be the forgotten child. But another part of me knew, even if they don't change, even if that little girl grows up feeling what I felt, she'll survive. She'll find her own strength. She'll build her own success. She'll surround herself with people who truly see her, because that's what people like us do. We survive. We thrive. We break cycles. And we do it not because of our families, but despite them. That night, after my dinner with friends, I came home to my beautiful apartment and poured myself a glass of wine. I stood on my balcony, looking out at the city lights, and I raised my glass in a quiet toast. To everyone who's been made to feel small, I said to the night air, you are enough. You always were. The lights twinkled back at me like they understood. I went inside, set my glass in the sink and got ready for bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new moments to celebrate. I'd built a life I was proud of, surrounded by people who truly valued me. I'd spent 32 years seeking approval from people who would never give it. Now I was spending every day giving that approval to myself. And it turned out that was all I ever needed.